everyone, Ben Coomber Radio, episode number 115. Now, I know I said it was 115 last time, but we had a bit of a techno retard moment between me and Rachel, and we had to put Perry's show before our show. So me and Rachel are back. Rachel, Athletic Fox guy, how are you?
Hi, Betty. I'm very well, thank you. It's the night before I fly out for my Christmas break, so I'm exhausted. I'm excited, but you know what? I'm also kind of sad. And like last night, I didn't go to bed last night till about 1 o'clock. I've had obviously a lot of work on trying to catch up with things, and I was kind of sad when I went to bed last night because I was like, fuck, like 2014 has been such an epic year. I really don't want it to end. And as excited as I am, and there's so many amazing projects coming on in 2015, 2014 has been so amazing. Do you feel that?
Well, yeah, no. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day that it's a year that's gone by us really quickly. Like really quickly, and I kind of look at all the things that have happened, and I've had a lot of travel early on in the year, and I just thought, yeah, it's kind of flown by. And I think one thing I'm going to do, and we were talking about this before we went on air, is structure my stuff so that I'm doing a bit less, and I can kind of feel my way through it a little bit more, so it almost has like a bit more meaning, and I kind of remember the stuff that I've done a bit more. I don't know, but I agree, like it's flown by.
I agree. Like this year, it's been an absolute whirlwind. I've travelled all over the world, met so many amazing people, and I've just wrapped up with my final project of the year, which is a rapid fat loss product, and I've been kind of sitting on it for a while. It's a little bit controversial for me to bring out, but it's called 21 BBB, so 21 triple B, and it's short for 21 days to beach, ballroom, or bedroom. Now, the reason why this product has come about is because I always get asked, obviously, for a quick fix solution. And as much as I educate women that obviously it's about, you can't do quick fixes, you can't be doing crash dieting, don't be going excessive cardio, there comes a time and a place that as a coach, I've got to take responsibility and kind of step up and, I guess, educate, but also meet a need for the market. So there are always going to be women out there who go for quick fixes. There are always going to be women that realize, shit, like I've got like a month or 2 to 3 weeks to fit into this dress for this particular occasion. Now, instead of them going for, some kind of juicing diet, some kind of cleanse, we all know about that whole isogenics and the Herbalife and all that kind of stuff. Rather than doing that, I have created a product which is a controlled nutritional program, a lot of training, but it's structured training, and you still eat carbs during the training phases, but we structure them around training to maximize fat loss. And so this is, I guess, my alternative to these quick fix diets. So when I ran the project as a guinea pig, I ran it with 20 guinea pigs, so 20 ladies, and they had some pretty amazing results. And they were also then able to, they got some amazing results, but then they were also able to easily go back into their, I guess, balanced normal nutritional plans, so with no adverse side effects. So again, like I said, it's a very controversial one for me to bring out. At the same time, I'm really proud of it. It's got a lot of body weight training in there for stay-at-home moms and busy people. Obviously, weight training in there as well. There's no excessive cardio. So it's a product I'm really proud of, but it has been an awful lot of work to bring it to market before the end of the year. And I would, like you, I would really like next year to actually be able to sit back and I guess enjoy the fruits of my labor and just really enjoy the process rather than feeling like rushed all the time, and you almost feel numb to it because you don't realize what's happening, and it just goes so quickly that you don't actually realize how far you've come when you have no time to look back, or as my dad used to say, take time out to smell the roses. Well, I haven't smelled any fucking roses this year. It's just been go. So it's all good fun. It's been a great year.
Well, exactly, and I think that's the danger in, you know, work in general, that you got your head down in it so much that your head isn't above the parapet, you know, appreciating what you might be helping people with and stuff. So it's important, you know, especially with us, we're sort of self-employed individuals. We create our own sort of path, you know, especially even us in even more the online world, and you got to take stock, and you've got to, rather than just going the next thing, because also you don't deliver the quality that you kind of expect of yourself and people expect of you. You know, you and me both have created an environment where people have an expectation of our work, and we need to still deliver on that. It's like the podcast. I hope we still keep delivering on the quality that we promise people we're going to. So yeah, it's important. It's important. So yeah, roll on 2015. I'm excited. Definitely.
Me too. And one thing I have to thank you for, I know we talked about this off air, like, you know, back in February when you came to Sydney, we had a really interesting conversation. We're lying on Bondi Beach in the sun. You know, I was filming you running in and out of the waves because you wanted to pretend to be James Bond. And we had this conversation about business and like how you structured your business and how I structured mine. And, you know, one thing that I said is I always feel overwhelmed with the amount of work that I have to do. And that your motto for the year, and I know we've talked about this on a podcast before, is your motto. And you said to me, Rach, there's always tomorrow. And it was such a simple phrase, there is always tomorrow. But I really took it on board. And even though, you know, I'm going to completely contradict myself now and say that although it has been a hectic, crazy year, it has been also a lot more structured, and I've had far less nights where I'm working into the depths of the night. And I've just, you know, and I have just had days off here and there where I've just remembered, you know, Ben Coomber's comment of, don't worry, there's always tomorrow. So there's going to be more of there's always tomorrow in 2015.
Good.
So there we go.
Good to
What's
hear
your news? I've just completely hijacked your podcast.
Yeah, you mother. Yeah. So what's news? A while back we talked about the fact that I was going to go and have a cosmetic surgery appointment, and
Yes.
I sort of said to people, look, I'll go and have it. I'll feed back to you, and the reason why I'm having it is because I have no idea what it's about. I'm kind of naive to the process. I'm naive to what it involves. It's not something I've ever explored. So, you know, I just like anyone else, I need to go and ask the questions of other people. So, I went and had my appointment and sat down with a surgeon. You know, paid a ridiculous amount of money for about 8 minutes, and it was interesting because he sort of asked my rationale behind it, and obviously understood that I was doing it for very personal reasons, and essentially it was the right reasons. It was not something that I'd rushed into. I'd thought a long time about, and you know, because I haven't had I haven't had a colossal weight loss journey. You know, I've had 5.5, 6 stone, which is, you know, it's great, well done me, but there's people out there that we suppose really surgery is an option for people that have lost like 9, 10, 11, 12 upwards, you know, fat mass, and it's left them with some serious ramifications. Now, I'm not left with serious ramifications. I just have a bit of squidginess in places that I didn't like. So basically the surgeon, in short, said, look, we could operate. I could give you like a razor flat stomach, and we could take some bit out the edges and all that kind of stuff, and you know, you have got some stretchier skin and stuff like that. He goes, but the damage that I will create and the incisions that I will have to make that happen, he said, you know, it's not worth the pain and the scarring. He goes, you know, for some kind of tummy tuck, which would pull your stomach, you know, right down, he said, you'll have a scar from hip bone to hip bone where I've pulled it down, and yes, it will be under your waistline, but when you're naked, you'll see that it will be huge. So in short, he said, look, you don't need it. You're fit and healthy, and you know, I know that. He said it's not as simple as you think it is, the surgical process. So he said, I'm advising you not to have surgery. He said you could go to London and get a different appointment, and the chances are in the private sector they might be a bit more ready to sort of cut you up and dice you a bit. And I think that's the same with any bad clinic or unethical clinic. You can get some bad advice and be on the table very quickly. So I'm glad I went and had the appointment. But it's been a little bit interesting. During the same process, I've been seeing Raj Banju, who's been on the podcast before, purely because, like a lot of people, I'm always looking to take my health to the next level, and I know he's a very investigative practitioner and does some really cool and funky stuff for people. So I've had 2 appointments with him now, and he said you need to get even more geeky about potential food intolerances in your diet. I think you still have some underlying stuff. Now, I know I've always been reactive to cows, dairy, and I don't have any cow's dairy in my diet apart from whey protein. Now, whey protein doesn't give me any physical symptoms very often of problems. So I've been taking whey protein, a very high quality one, and I hadn't really noticed any stuff. Now, I've been working with Raj and my body's become a lot more sensitive recently. I've been noticing more stuff and we've been clearing some things out, and I had naturally not had whey protein for about 8 or 9 days, and it's purely because I've just been eating real food. You know, a lot of the time I'll get in for my workout and I'll just eat, and that's it. I don't have a rationale for whey protein. And I'd been about 8 or 9 days, and I got in late and I hadn't eaten for a long time, and I just wanted to go to bed. So I had a whey protein shake and a couple of nuts, and I just felt my throat tighten up, and I got chesty, like I had asthmatic symptoms. And then my symptoms with dairy don't come on straight away, apart from the chestiness, which I never used to get. They come on about 16 hours later, and around 16 hours later my stomach filled up with fluid, and it just went all fluidy around my love handles. It was horrible, and I was like, shit. I was like, I know I'm sensitive to cow's dairy, but that kind of, having worked with Raj, that sensitivity is flagged up more and more. Now, let's reverse. I went to the surgeon to kind of say, oh, I've got this problem where my skin feels like it's really horrible and it blows up randomly and it does random stuff. Now, I've at the moment put it down to whey protein, so I've taken whey protein out again, and you know, the quality and texture of my stomach fat has changed a lot. I've become a lot kind of leaner and tighter. I'm not on a calorie deficit. I'm actually on a slight surplus because I'm trying to put on a bit of tin leading up to Christmas. Because it's fattening season also. But I'm getting a bit leaner because there's obviously some water retention leaving. I'm sorting out a little bit of inflammation, so I'm back on some high dose probiotics. But it's interesting that the problems that I were having would led me to the thought process of maybe I'll explore surgery to see if they can help. But really, again, like a lot of things, it came back down to my diet, and it came back down to one thing that I didn't think was having much of a reaction, but on a systemic level it was. So it's been a good process to go down, but it's, again, I'm just still working this stuff out like everyone else. I'm still digging around like everyone else. So I'm hoping that without cow's dairy in any capacity in my diet anymore will really start to lead me into even better health. Yeah.
Very interesting you say that, because obviously with my IBS, I'm still, you know, I still find different things and struggle with different things. And I know like 2 of my big ones are onion and garlic, like hands down. And I love onion and garlic. And whilst my parents have been over in Australia, and when we were away, most of the time when we were at dinner, I used to say, please no onion and garlic. And the waiter would say to me, are you just intolerant or allergic to it? And I was like, I'm allergic to it. And this one time I actually forgot to say no onion and garlic, and I had this piece of fish come out. It was in this, like, I don't know, some delicious butter sauce. And I said to, like, as I was eating it, it was really tasty, but I was like, I finished and I was like, there's garlic in here. I couldn't taste it, but I just knew, I could just you just know as soon as you finish, like literally within 10 minutes, I just knew, like, it just didn't feel right. And I did ask the waiter, is there garlic in this? And he said yes, and it was my fault because I didn't clarify no garlic and no onion. But it's when you become very sensitive to these things, it makes such a huge difference. And if you're not sure, I guess the story to pull from this is, if you're not sure if you have a food intolerance, take it out of your diet for a minimum of 7 to 10 days, like minimum. And then, you know, and then reintroduce it. I mean, people say longer, but I think after 7 days, if you've had a good run for 7 days, reintroduce it. You'll feel it straight away if you're sensitive and if you know what your body feels like after eating particular foods.
The whole whey protein thing as well is not going to bother me because I've transitioned a lot more into probably having even less supplements these days. The only supplements I have are either they're supporting a health process or they're looking at from an ergogenic perspective, a performance perspective. So I don't think it's going to bother me. I think I'll have a tub of vegan protein sitting on the side for when I travel and I'm going to take away some servings, or now and again I'll have it as a quick breakfast. But it's not going to bother me, and that's my perspective on powdered proteins as well, that they're not essential in any capacity or any form. A whey protein shake is essentially a blended chicken breast. That's all it's providing to the body. So you can have food, you can have a shake. I'm not saying shakes are bad. They're convenient for sports people. They're probably quite essential because liquid recovery can often be very beneficial to speed of recovery. But, in my environment, it's not an issue. It's really not.
Just eat real food.
I will continue to do so. So
let's get some questions, shall we?
Yeah, after 15 minutes of bullshit for everyone else.
Oh God! And I think I've probably dropped about 4 F-bombs in that 15 minutes, so to make up for lost time.
Potty mouth Welshman.
Okay, what did you say?
I said you potty mouth Welshman.
Oh, I know, it's terrible, isn't it? It's terrible. Do you know what? I have a confession to make. Oh no, I'm not going to go there actually. I said the C word the other day, but I said it in my car. Okay, so I was in my car and I was driving with a male friend of mine. And I only ever really say the C words in my car, or if I really, really despise somebody. Like, it's even for me as a Welsh bird who swears a lot, like I do have reservations on that word. So I'm in my car and this twat cuts me up. Anyway, the C words just flowed freely, and I was like, fucking whatever. Anyway, my mate Shannon turns around to me and he goes, "Rach!" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "You've gone up in my estimations." I said, "Gone up in your estimations?" He goes, "Yeah, I did not expect that word to come from you." So I was like, "Oh, cheers, buddy." But it won't be coming out again anytime soon. Anyway, I digress. This question is from Amy Todd. So it's quite a long one. "Hi Ben, I've been listening to your podcasts for a while now and I haven't got to the end of them yet, but I'm loving listening to your opinions and guests and I feel like I've learned a lot. I was recently diagnosed with IBS after being hospitalised and I'm following a low-FODMAP diet, which has helped my symptoms massively. This is quite restrictive in terms of no gluten, no lactose, no beans or pulses, onion, garlic or certain foods other than fruits, vegetables, amongst other things. I do eat very well, I think. As an ex-international athlete, I have an Instagram at Learning to Live with IBS if you're interested in seeing what I eat. I'm still very active and do weight training twice a week, an interval training session, normally hill sprints, and an Olympic lifting session, and I've also just started CrossFit. I enjoy the feeling of being strong and I love exercising. However, with the amount that I'm doing, I'm struggling to eat enough. Higher calorie foods like avocados are limited to 1/8 of an avocado per serving, and I have to be careful with eating too much fat as my body struggles to digest it. I also don't feel hunger cues anymore, so I have to track what I eat to ensure I have enough calories coming in. Big portions are also difficult for me to digest. I want to be building muscle, but at the minute I'm fighting to keep the weight on, yet alone build muscle. Here is a typical day for me. I exercise fasted, as I'm currently a student on placement, so working full time and finding it easiest to fit it in then. Breakfast, 40 grams of oats with soy milk, an egg white, raspberries and nut butter. Snack, not always, but about 10 almonds, limited on a low FODMAP diet. Lunch, basmati rice, mixed veg, and half a tin of tuna. Snack, again, not always, but usually rice cakes with peanut butter. Dinner, basmati rice, bolognese, or a stir fry with mixed seafood. Snack is usually a soy yogurt, maybe some granola, rice cakes, or 2 squares of dark chocolate. I find by the end of the day, I normally have so many calories to make up, it's not possible. I'm a research scientist, so I work in a lab, and I generally can't snack between meals that much, as you aren't able to eat in the laboratory. I'm 20 years old and I don't want to have to stop doing what I love doing, but I'm losing a lot, around half to 1 kilo a week. My energy feels okay at the moment, but I know this is not healthy. Mainly, I want to know what you'd suggest. I love listening to your show, and it's been part of the reason I've decided to do a postgraduate degree in dietetics. I want to help other people with IBS to live a happy, nutritionally sound life with as little pain as possible. Thanks for the help.
Well, this is good, and we should definitely shout out her Instagram profile again if anyone's listening with IBS, because again it might give you some ideas. I know, and this is the exact same case for Amy, that rightly so she's struggling with some kind of inventive areas of her diet to help her out, and that's fine. Like, I get short of ideas now and again, and I might want a few. So learning to live with IBS, look her up on Instagram. You might find some cool stuff. But as a whole, we need to look, for me, what's already in the diet. In terms of increasing, what she's basically asking is the caloric load, and in any restrictive diet component, and this is the same with vegans, vegetarians, fruitarians, God, if they still exist, but you need to sit down and basically write out a massive list of what is on the agenda. Right, so ignore the stuff that's off the agenda. You know what that is. You basically need to look at them and probably work out, let's say, per 100 grams, all the calories in these products. So granola, XYZ calories, peanut butter, XYZ calories, and you start to basically create a hierarchy, and then all the ones with the higher calories, you start to say, right, well, that is now my priority. It has to be. One of the big things I'm suffering with is basically a lack of caloric intake. So, from that point forward, like, I know, for example, granola is very calorific. In the UK, there's a brand of cereal called Country Crisp. It used to be something that I ate as a kid. It's so nice, but it's mega caloric. And I was going to have a big bowl after training one day, and I looked at the packet and I was like, shit, even if I have a big bowl, I haven't even got many calories to play with. It's insane how many calories are in it. So I'd definitely focus on granola, obviously nut butters, dark chocolate I would throw in there. What you can't afford to do is be dogmatic too much about thinking, oh, well, I shouldn't have too much fat, or I shouldn't have too much. You're not really in a position to kind of decide that. Things like sweet potato with a bit of butter mashed into it, if you can have something like goat's butter or a bit of coconut oil mashed into it with cinnamon, sweet potato with apple sauce and coconut butter mashed into it, making homemade bars. I think there are a lot of ways you can really start to get calories in a very inventive way. In my office sitting here right now, I've got pulsing bars. Now a pulsing bar is like, it's 2 inches by 2 inches, and it packs 230 calories, and they're gluten-free, dairy-free. They're just made with like a bit of fruit syrup and pea protein and stuff like that. So looking at kind of bars, if egg yolks are not a problem, then I'd have egg yolks in there, maybe a bit more oats. And just working around these things, and probably making a few. If you struggle with fibre, which a lot of people do in IBS, maybe look at juicing. And then juicing and putting a little bit of coconut oil into it, blending it with a little bit of nut butter and a vegan protein powder, and that's going to be an easy way to just chug down 400 calories ish by doing it like that. So I think you just got to break things down. If you're eating proteins as well, you could be choosing fattier proteins. Like, you've chosen tuna, I would replace that with salmon or mackerel. That's going to probably triple the calorie intake of choosing salmon or mackerel over tuna, because it's intensely lean. So I sort of think there's a lot you can do, but good question, because some people do need to find better ways of putting calories on board.
Absolutely. And oats with soy milk and egg white. Adding an egg white might only have, God, what is an egg white? I don't eat egg white, so I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know how many calories are in an egg white. I eat the whole egg.
In theory, it should be about 12 to 15 calories if it's purely protein, and there's only about 3 grams of protein in it.
It's hardly anything. Have 6 of them. Eat the whole egg.
Yep.
And it does, and I guess for some women as well, it depends on the cycle as to how much fat they can tolerate. So, I know times during my cycle I can quite easily eat a whole block of dark chocolate and not have a problem. And then the next time, obviously digestion struggles a little bit. But, slowly and surely, don't be adding everything in overnight, but slowly and surely. Awesome. Next question. This is from AJ Patel. Hi, Ben. Not a question, but I've come across a system called posturology by a lady called Antoinette I can never pronounce his name. Vipilo, I think it is. I think she's Canadian. And it looks extremely interesting for sports performance, but also general posture and how it affects the individual. This is her website, www.posturepro.net. She's based in Canada. I first heard of her through Charles Poliquin. I thought it would be great to have her on your podcast as you don't have an episode on the importance. You have not had an episode on the importance of posture before. I hope this interests you. I'm a big fan of your work and particularly the podcast. Keep it coming. Thanks, AJ.
So this is pretty decent because we followed on from a Perry Nicholson podcast which we had last week, and we obviously talk a lot about movement and stability, and posture links into this massively. So I'm going to take AJ's question on board and organise a posture based podcast. But the reason why I wanted to mention it is because we need to think common sense and logically about all of this. So one of the things that Perry and I talked about is movement and the static stability of a muscle. And when we think of posture, we just think about the spine and how elevated we are and sitting up straight and stuff like that. But posture also comes down to all the joints. Like, what is the posture of the ankle? What is the posture of the knee, the hip, the elbow, the shoulder, the neck, the spine, the sacrum? And if we have pain or restriction, then the posture is out of line with those joints. Let's not just think about the spine. Obviously, the spine is a hugely important one. There's way too many people that are slouched, or unintentionally they're sitting for a long period of time and they slouch over, they get lazy with it. Cool, we all do it. And I just think it's really, really important. And I think, especially in us as trainers, the spine and the shoulders of the neck are really, really important. And if you allow these overcompensations to happen, which they will happen, because if you sit down most of your day, you will compensate to become more efficient in your environment. Hence, kyphotic postures develop. And as soon as you get into the gym, your shoulder will not track properly. Your spine will not rotate properly. Your hips will not distribute power through your upper and lower body properly. So it's really important that you consider all this all the time, and you're aware of your walking and your moving posture, but you allow your body to move into posture when you go into movement. So I am awful at warming up when I go into my training. I'm like, right, let's just train. But for the most part, I've been sitting down most of the day. I haven't really moved efficiently. And I know that I need to just literally go through some rotations, extension, flexion, move the joints, open the hip. And I need to just spend 5 minutes moving through all these planes of movement because I'm not where I should be. And I think that's the importance that the point that we maybe missed out on last week with mobility and warming up is, yes, we don't want to over mobilize something that's really tight because it's tight for a reason, it lacks stability, but we do want to regain what we will class as normal movement and normal function, because this is going to create an individual that moves properly and is going to heavily reduce the risk of developing restrictive points and injury.
I'd agree with that, and it's. Obviously, you haven't released the podcast yet, so I haven't heard it, so I can't comment any further. But I think it's a common misconception that we see as trainers that because a muscle is tight, it needs stretching. No, quite often a muscle is tight because it needs strengthening. So I'll stop there because I'm probably just about to repeat everything that you talked about with Perry. So I'll leave it there. But I've also heard, posturology is quite big down here in Australia. I know there's quite a few practitioners who have qualified, and they're getting some pretty amazing results with their clients.
Always bear in mind your posture.
Exactly. And I'm like, do you know what? As I was reading this question, you probably see me go, ooh, I'm going to grow a bit more. I'm terrible. I know. I having I'm a desk jockey now. All I do is just sit here all day, so I should be more aware of my posture. In fact, you know what? Just behind me, I bought one of those like ergonomic chairs that you're supposed to like kneel in, and your knees go behind you. But the problem is, because I sit on it for hours and hours and hours at a time, my shins really hurt because the weight's now coming down through my shins. So I spend a couple of hours on that, and then I just revert back to a normal chair. But I should do that whole standing desk thing. Maybe next year, maybe 2050. Yeah. Anyway, this question is from Johnny. Hi Ben, I hope you're well. My question is in regards to carb cycling. My stats are 5'7", 83 kilos and 18% body fat. I recently went 3 weeks on a maximum of 50 grams of carbs with higher fats, 2,000 calories, so that's under maintenance, and I really noticed a difference. I dropped 4 kilos and my energy levels were like never before. Should I continue with this type of diet, or is it time to introduce carb cycling? Also, is it the correct protocol that it should be lower calories and carbs on non-training days and higher calories on training days? Also, would it be beneficial to take a gainer shake to account for these extra calories, as I find it hard to fit in my meals as it is? Johnny.
Wow. So he's, not that far statistically off me. He's got lower level of body muscle mass because his body fat percentage is about 6-ish, 7% higher than me. But 2,000 calories is pretty low for your kind of body weight. And you basically said you went on a very low carb ketogenic diet and you felt great and you dropped 4 kilos. So some of that weight would have been water weight because you would have dropped the carbs so much, and then some of that would have been body fat because you dropped your calories so much. So is it time to include some kind of carb cycling? Well, I'm going to make the assumption that you have reached your ideal weight, but I'm also going to probe the question that if you are 18% body fat, I'm going to assume that you want to be a bit lower. Me personally, I don't want to be 80% body fat. I like to see some remnants of my muscle mass, so I need to be kind of 13% or less, really. So if you're going for an ideal physique, then you need to keep dropping your body fat percentage some more. Do you need to stay low carb still to do that? No, because you're on a calorie deficit. So you're gonna take care of that. But the big thing with macronutrients and carbs, and you asked me, is it better to have lower calories and carbs on training day? Your diet has to make you feel good. If your diet being low carb makes you feel good, then be low carb, but learn how to strategize your carbohydrate intake. If you feel good on high carb, then have a high carb diet or a moderate carb diet. You need to feel good, and your diet must make you feel good, and that's going to equal adherence. And then make your calorie deficit or your maintenance or your surplus govern the changes that are going to happen in your body fat. Don't think that carbohydrate is going to have some kind of magic in terms of the fat loss battle. Controlling your carbohydrate intake is probably going to lead to an appearance of better body composition, purely because you will not get any form of raw water retention if you can get your kind of intake spot on. But I would keep chasing your original goal if it's body fat loss, and then bring your calories up to maintenance, and then take them into a surplus to try and account for the performance parameters you're likely trying to meet in your training. But as a general rule, if you have less energy expenditure one day, or a day, sorry, you need less calories. But it also depends how you might calculate your calorie intake over the course of a week. I usually, for most part, calculate my calories daily. So I need, let's say, 3,300 calories per day, and I aim for that. But if I hit 3,000 calories one day, the next day I will add another 300. So you can calculate calories daily or over the portion of a week, and your body composition should follow suit over the course of a week. And then to address your last question, should you take a weight gainer shake? From the perspective of a commercial weight gainer shake, I would not like to see that. The nutritional quality and density that you're going to take on board is going to be low for the amount of calories that you eat, and I'm always about optimal health, optimal performance, and you're not going to get that from calories that come from protein and sugar. Do you need help bringing on board extra calories at some point? Yes, but I don't think the answer is a whey protein shake. You can make them at home with whey protein and nut butters and a banana and some whole milk and some loads of yummy stuff. Doesn't need to be a commercial weight gainer. That, or you can eat real food.
Thank you. That was very clear and succinct. I have nothing further to add. Awesome. So last question. This question's from Tom. Dear Ben, first things first, no Iggy Azalea pun intended. I'm a big fan of the podcast and the information that you give out. It's very good to see a coach whose goal is to pass on genuine information and to debunk a lot of the myths surrounding the fitness industry. Also, brilliant diet video, which I've shared on both Facebook and Twitter. Just on a side note there, that was an excellent diet video, and my database of girls loved it. So, Benny, thank you for that one. I have 2 questions, and I was just wondering if you could give your opinion on them. Apologies if you have already discussed them in one of your earlier podcasts. I'm slowly working my way back, and I haven't quite got to the start yet. So, firstly, I'd like to know your take on metabolic adaptation to certain forms of cardio. I won't go into detail, but I've started every gym session with a run since I first started weight training about 4 years ago, because when I initially lost a large amount of weight, it was what worked. This distance has slowly built up and is currently around 3 miles. I eat pretty cleanly using IIFYM, which has actually helped me put on a lean-to stone over the last 2 years, and I do track everything that I eat. I consider my calories extremely low for the amount of training that I do, 3,300 on a 40-40-20 split. My weight training sessions really aren't affected by my pre-workout cardio, i.e. they are very voluminous and intense. The reason I ask is because I've started to notice now that I resemble a kind of skinny fat look. And the more I read, the more I'm inclined to think that it is the running that's causing this. It's pretty disheartening when the amount of time and effort you put into a gym and diet isn't truly reflected by the way that you look. From what I've gathered, high-intensity training using multiple cardio exercises seems to be the way to go, instead of fairly steady state of 70 to 75 max heart rate cardio. I was just wondering what your take is on the matter. Secondly, and a little shorter, what is the role of sugar in an If It Fits Your Macros diet? I've read mixed things about insulin and sugar, with some suggesting that as long as there is some fat eaten as well, then insulin release will not be as serious. A lot of the YouTubers you see completely disregard sugar and only focus on the total number of carbs. Surely that can't be a good thing. Keep up the impressive work, and I hope to hear back from you, Tom.
Well, I would like to think that the information that I've been giving out for a long period of time is hopefully self-explanatory on whether we should have sugar in our diet at all. Now, sugar in its most basic form is one of the most basic forms of energy for the human body. So we cannot say that it is bad. It is one of the most basic usable fuel sources, and it's the thing that is absorbed and utilized one of the fastest, the first being alcohol. So, it's not bad per se, but for everything that we do and everything that I look at in terms of nutrition, I need to say to myself, and when I'm working with a client, I need to say, right, calorie for calorie, I need to get as much nutrition into this person's body as humanly possible, because I believe that it will equate to a better performance output, a better health output, a better well-being output. Now, as soon as the percentage of those calories in terms of quality reduces, I am potentially going to shortchange the benefit that we get from the diet. Now, the If It Fits Your Macros paradigm is perfect, it's rational, and we understand why it exists, and it is scientific, and there's a huge amount of people that need to control calories and macronutrients, just like I do a fair amount of the time when I am chasing or concerned about my performance targets. But you're right in the fact that there's a lot of people online saying, oh, look at me, I'm having a Pop-Tart after my workout. Oh, look at me, I've earned this pizza, I've factored it into my, whatever. And that's all fine. But the problem is a lot of the coaches that are promoting If It Fits Your Macros based diets usually glorify the bad stuff that's in their diet. And they're not often talking about the chicken, broccoli and rice or whatever that they had at the 3 meals previous to that. So you know, you've got to be wary what you see online. The if it fits your macros approach, as we've discussed before, is absolutely perfect to get things that you want into your diet, whether it's an Oreo or a burger or a Pop-Tart or some dark chocolate, whatever it might be. It is a rationale, but we need to understand that every time we move closer to a non-optimal food intake, we might be shortchanging our potential health-based outcomes. And this is a current argument I haven't seen well enough explained yet to me, in that and if it fits your macros coach that focuses primarily on that say, well, I get my clients to hit their macronutrients, their fiber intake and their micronutrients, and I ask the question, okay, so please tell me how you're assessing their micronutrient intake. And most coaches are not assessing micronutrient intake. They're not going, oh, the way that I've designed their diet does account for their magnesium status, their zinc status, their iron status, etc., etc. So really, we're taking this theory that is popularized in the science, which we know and we understand, and we're just assuming that because we're healthy and we're functioning to a degree, that we are hitting our micronutrient status. And I would argue the fact that no one really knows where people's optimum micronutrient status is. I don't know where mine is. I don't know many people, and this is why the research literature has to be pieced together from other angles, right? We know that most people are deficient in magnesium in healthy populations that are not exercising. We live in an exercise population, so the chances are probably 100% of us are magnesium deficient. So from a micronutrient perspective, there's a huge amount of people that are not getting in magnesium, yet we're saying we're getting enough magnesium because we're eating a healthful diet. It's the same with zinc. It's the same with iron in women. There's a lot of nutrient deficiencies that we have, but apparently we're accounting for them because we're eating real food. So I think coaches need to take stock of that. They need to get more intelligent assessment process, or they need to be honest and say, actually, I'm operating guesswork with that person's micronutrient deficiencies or potential micronutrient status. Now, I operate guesswork. We all operate guesswork. Every personal trainer, every nutritionist, every coach is a best guesser. That's all we are. We don't know things for fact. We cannot know things for fact, but we make intelligent decisions based on our knowledge via guesswork, and we hope that we're pretty darn close. So let's be honest with the fact that we are operating guesswork with these deficiencies, and we probably need to dig a little bit deeper to see if these deficiencies do exist. So if your client says, actually, my recovery is a little bit impaired, then the coach should go away and say, okay, I'm going to look up impaired recovery and all the nutricals that lead into the recovery process. And then you might start to look at creatine, magnesium, zinc, electrolytes and stuff. But I bet my bottom dollar a lot of coaches are not doing this, even though they're slapping on the if it fits your macros approach to a lot of clients. Now, did you want to speak, Rachel, before I go on to the other point?
Speak.
Speak. Preach.
Speak forever.
And then, so what Tom didn't provide us with is his statistics. So I emailed him back and I got his statistics off him. So Tommy's 5'9", 170 pounds, aka 78 kilos. So that's quite small. That's about 5 kilos lighter than me. Now I'm currently in a calorie surplus, slightly, at about 3,300. So I have the same nutritional intake as Tom does, except I'm in gaining phase, and Tom sounds like he should be looking to lose fat. Now, his goal lacks a little bit of clarity in what he's kind of mentioned. He sort of said that he's lost weight, but he's also put on a lean stone in 2 years, which is great. Now, the chances are he's probably put on muscle mass because he's on a fairly high calorie intake for his body weight. Now, I don't know what he does on a daily basis. He could be a labourer working outside, lifting bricks all day, and that's probably a low calorie intake. But if he's sitting on his ass most of the day like me, but still goes into the gym and works hard, this still might be a low calorie intake. So, I mean, I took a basic calculation and worked out that your BMR is probably about 1900 calories. And then I took your exercise, let's say you're training 5 times a week, I reckon for maintenance at high level, you should be eating about 2,800 calories per day for maintenance. So from what I can see, you're eating a calorie intake that is appropriate to gain weight, and you've just said you're starting to look like a sort of skinny fat person. Well, I would say you're just eating too much, like you're fat. That for me, that is the short answer to the question. So you say that you're actually eating quite low calories for the training that you do. You're not, especially if you're quite inactive during the day. I don't care whether you've had a really hard workout. That still doesn't warrant eating an extra 800 calories. It obviously warrants eating more. I sit on my ass all day, but when I go in the gym, I train really hard. But my maintenance would still be about 2,900, 3,000 calories. So I just think a little bit of restructuring needs to be done, Tom.
That was what I was going to say. Thank you.
Oh, I stole your thunder.
Well, I did want to know how tall he was and like what his actual stats were, but you stole it from me. You did steal my thunder. And just, I guess with the cardio thing, there is a time and place for all forms of cardio. Let's just say that with my clients, particularly my male clients, I don't want them doing cardio before their workout. But like if he wants to get on the treadmill, and first of all, I hate treadmills. First things first. But if one of my clients wants to get on the bike or the cross trainer, or go for a jog for 10 minutes before they work out because they like to break a light sweat, whatever, I don't have a problem with that. My personal preference is that if you're going to do cardio, I don't have a problem whether you do long, slow duration or high intensity, depending on what cycle and what training phase you're in. My preference is always to do that actually after your weight training, though.
Yeah.
So
I agree, and also
after your weight training, we'll separate the two altogether.
I didn't breach his very first question, which is I would like to know your take on metabolic adaptation from certain forms of cardio. Well, and this is in short, when you do something that requires energy, if you do it in the same way on a consistent basis, the body will always try and find efficiency. The body is a survival machine, and it will try to do things, and it will do the same with weight training. It's just weight training is a little bit harder to do the same every time because the variables tend to change as you get stronger, which means you'll get more efficient. So if I go out for a run and I run for 3 miles every time, and I do it in the same time, and it takes me the same amount of effort and intensity, whereas it might have burned 300 calories on day 1, at day 30 it might start to burn 270 calories because your body will learn how to manage that training stress for it to cost less energy because we are a survival machine. So that's why in training we always look for progression to continue our results. We either run longer, we run faster, we lift weights in a different way, we change the tempo, we change the structure, and that's one reason the variables have to change in training.
Sure. Awesome.
Awesome! So that leads us to get to the end of the show. Thank you very much for listening, everyone. It's always an honour. I hope you've enjoyed the show. And don't be scared to give us feedback. We do like to hear feedback, Twitter, Facebook, wherever it is. And as previously asked, and I'm going to ask again because it hasn't got much love. When you see the podcast on places, please help it get shared. If you see it on Facebook, hit the like button on Facebook. It takes 2 seconds. If you can, leave us a comment. If you can, share it. If you enjoy the show, which an awful lot of people do, we've hit over 1.2 million downloads now. There's obviously a lot of people enjoying the show. We need to help keep growing it, and it only grows with your help. The next time you meet up with a friend, say, hey, are you interested in health and fitness? I know this awesome podcast. Have a little listen, and then give them your favourite show. Probably don't give them show 1 because it's not the best show in the world. We've obviously matured with age like a fine wine. say to them, oh, listen to episode 76 or 51, whichever your favourite one is, and just pass on that gift of knowledge, which is what we're trying to do. We're trying to pass on the gift of knowledge, and do us the honour of trying to share that. So if you have a question as well, feel free to email in the podcast, bencoomber@gmail.com, with the subject line podcast. Please put the subject line podcast, otherwise your message might be lost, deleted, destroyed, evaporated, who knows. I get a lot of emails, so sometimes you have to be harsh and say no more, delete. And then I will see everyone on the next show with Ben Escrow, as we're going to talk about training and periodization, and looking at a little bit of science of training. And then me and Rachel will be back on episode 117.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Penny. If anybody wants to check out my fast fat loss controversial product, which I'm sure I'm going to get trolled over at some stage, I currently don't have a website for it, so it's all over my Facebook at the moment. It's called 21BBB, and there will be links all over my Facebook page and my Twitter page as well. I haven't officially launched it yet, so I've just done like the odd soft launch here and there. So if you're on my list, you're going to be hit with it this week. But yeah, it will be online.
Wicked. Right, Rachel, it's been a pleasure. Everyone else,
Benny. And Benny, I'm going to see you next week in London. Or actually next week, no, in 10 days in London.
You are. Everyone else, stay safe, be awesome, and we will see you next week. Ciao. Hey everyone, Ben Coomber Radio, episode number 115. We're back with a US-based guest. We're going to take this show in a different direction today.